righty, it's 1 o'clock. Good afternoon, everyone. I can see a lot of people are on. Thanks for taking the time to join us today. There is no CE for this webinar today. Our host is Natalie Barron. She's a certified professional coach with the International Coaching Federation and the founder of Core Creation Coaching and Consulting. Welcome, Natalie, and thank you so much for being here with us today. And please feel free to take it away.
Sure. Well, first of all, I would love, Alicia's going to help me with the chat. So I would love if everyone could just put in the chat where you're calling in from. And also, before we get started, this is going to be a very interactive session. So if I could really implore everyone to go on video, that would be really fantastic, because we are going to be doing some connecting with each other. And so I would love it if you guys could go on video. All right. Oops. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. All right. And I'm not, for whatever reason, I can't see the chat, Alicia, so I'm going to leave that to you. I'm not sure exactly why I can't see it. Never had that issue before.
I'm not sure, but so far we have attendees from Iowa, Indiana, and Austin, Texas.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm so excited for this opportunity, and I appreciate, especially in the times that we're in, I think this is a very timely topic. And so what we're going to be talking today is how to build resilience in the rebound. And I'm just going to really acknowledge what we are all struggling with today. You know, if it wasn't bad enough, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. And I just want to acknowledge that this is a time like no other in our lifetimes. We've never experienced anything like this. We've never had these kind of situations as a country, globally. I mean, we're all struggling. And, you know, as we've just started to reopen the country, and as you are all starting to go back to your practices and starting to even, you know, figure out what that looks like, I would be amiss if I didn't address what was happening also in addition in the last seven to 8 days. We've been reminded of the deep wounds that people of color experience in our country, and watching the news is really heartbreaking. I think for many of us, we feel helpless. Feeling helpless is real. We're acknowledging the pain and suffering that has run deep, and it is an important part of the reality that we're all dealing with. So we're facing the threats of COVID, and those threats and those realities are real, and the implications for all of us are real as well. And just about everything that we know at this point is uncertain. And that's where resilience really comes in, because no one can truly predict the magnitude of the impact of everything that's happening. And as you can see from the slide, I mean, you know, parents are homeschooling. We're worried about elderly, you know, family. We're worried about our finances, the election, the bombardment of news, and, you know, I have a picture down here of, you know, empty dental offices. I mean, we are all going through a lot. So, you know, the reality is that while these are uncertain and unprecedented times, all of us, and our country included, we've all faced crisis before. And there's multiple historical examples of this. But the reality is this country has been through times before. We've all been through rough times. And there's other things that didn't go on this slide, right? There's climate change. There's cancer diagnoses, there's infertility, I mean, there's job loss, there's divorce, there's so many things that everyone's being faced with. And I don't know about you, but, you know, as we get started and we're talking about all this, you know, I can feel the tightness in my chest, the tightness in my shoulder. So what I recommend is that everyone just take a breath, because sometimes through all of this, we just forget to breathe, and it is really vitally important. So just take a breath. And let's just be centered and talk about the topic of today, which is resilience. And, you know, this workshop is really not about the topics that I just addressed, but I do feel it's important to address them. What this workshop is about is getting on the other side of those things. And how do we do that? And it's about moving through, landing on the other side. And that's what we're going to be going forward. And so, you know, at any time during crisis, there's people that shine and things are revealed, and there's people that don't. And I put this picture up of your group because I know that this group has exactly what they need to get through this. You're all very highly driven women. You have dental practices, you're moms, you go through a lot, and you have people to take care of, and you wouldn't be in this position if you weren't a strong, resilient woman. So I just want to acknowledge that, you know, Dr. Yum has done an amazing job of building this community, and how we get through these times really is in community with each other. But first of all, we really need to take an inner look at what we need for ourselves before we can ask for help or support in our community. So that's really the essence of what this webinar is going to be about is, you know, how are you going to, this COVID has been a real opportunity for us to reevaluate a lot of things in our lives, right? I call it the great pause. And whether we welcomed it or not, it was a powerful pause for many of us. And this is really an opportunity to reevaluate, to reimagine the possibilities, and to rebound into what's new for us. So I invite you to think about that as we move forward. And here's my promise to you today. So what you will walk away with today, you'll walk away with 4 keys on how to build a resilient mindset. You will really feel comfortable taking control of your rebound, even during all of this uncertainty. And we'll talk about some simple ways to put your learning into action. So I just want to introduce myself formally. I'm Natalie Barron, as Dr. Yum said, and I just want to give you a little context of my history briefly before I go forward. So I was at college my last year at USC, and I went by the career fair because there was a career booth giving out free Snickers. And of course I wanted some free Snickers. So I decided to go to the career fair, ended up having a great conversation with the person, you know, the recruiter at Mars, and that landed me in a 27-year career at Mars Wrigley. I was always in sales. I did a variety of different sales positions. I had shopper marketing positions. I managed regions. I was a leader, a sales leader for many years. And I had an amazing experience at Mars. And one of the experiences that Mars afforded me was the opportunity to work for one of our smaller business units, which is our ice cream unit. So I managed a team. We did Dove ice cream bars and M&M cookie sandwiches and all of those great ice cream products. I got the chance to work with great brands in a very small entrepreneurial environment. And part of what I took on myself was the training and leadership role for that business unit. And I had a pivotal conversation when my husband asked me at 25 years with Mars what I wanted to do when I grew up, because I hadn't really thought about what the next chapter or what the next phase was for me in my life as I was approaching kind of retirement age. So long story short, I had a pivotal conversation with a therapist who had her own therapy practice, and she had given that up to become an executive coach. Had that conversation. A week later, I signed up for coach training. I spent a year in coach training. I started coaching clients. I also started coaching. I developed a coaching program within Mars. It was a leadership coaching program for sales leaders. It was wildly successful. It went global. It came back to the United States. And at that point, I realized I was onto something. I had found my passion, and I decided to leave Mars and monetize and start my own business. And that is how I ended up here. So I have my own company, Core Creation Coaching and Consulting. I do executive coaching and leadership. I'm an executive leadership and sales coach. I'm a speaker, I'm a trainer, and I also host my own podcast. And the great thing is I help women with all of the things on this slide. I help them find their passion. I help them have more work-life balance. I help them with fulfillment and impact and influence and empowerment. But the great thing is the things you see underlined, those are my core values. So I get to work in my core values every day, which is fantastic. And I'm very grateful for the work that I do. I feel very lucky. So let's talk about resilience. This is why you're here today. And I am going to look at some notes, so just so you know. We've spoken about the crisis, and I would like to encourage you to think about what resilience means to you. And have you ever wondered why some people seem to remain calm in the face of disaster, while other people seem to come undone? And people that can keep their cool have what psychologists call as resilience. It's the ability to cope with problems and setbacks. And really resilient people are able to utilize their skills and strengths to cope and to recover from problems and changes. And one of the things I really want to footnote here, since many of you attending this, I think probably most of you are mommies, resilience is really something important for our children to learn. And we do learn it as children, and we learn it through going through tough times. And so as kids, when we learn that we can fall down, when we learn that we can maybe get a bad grade or make a mistake with a friend, and we learn that we can get on the other side of that, and our parents encourage us through the process, not necessarily the result, that's how we build resilience. And the reason why I caveat that is I do see a lot of younger women in my practice, helping them with empowerment, negotiation skills, etc. And I see a lot of young people with anxiety. And part of the reason why people have anxiety is because they don't have the muscle of resilience built up from their past. And it's really important that we allow our children the opportunity to go through a tough experience, not step in, not be the helicopter parent, not protect them, not go to the teacher and complain about the grade, but really let them become self-advocates for themselves. Because I think all of us can agree that when we look back at the experiences in our own lives, when we look through difficult times, those were the times that we really grew and that we really learned a lot about ourselves. And we really, we built that resilient muscle. So I caveat that and I digress a little bit, but I just want to say, for all those mommies out there, give your kids the opportunity and some room to really explore failure. And I don't ever see it as failure. I have an acronym for FAIL, which I say it's a first attempt in learning. So I think we need to give ourselves grace as well as our children the opportunity to have those experiences so they can build resilience. So let's get back to you. So many of you are probably saying, okay, that's great, but how do I actually build that muscle? I'm an adult, maybe I wasn't given that opportunity as a child myself. So how do I build resilience now as an adult? And the one thing that we know for sure is that there's no turning back at this point, right? We are in the middle of a crisis on many different levels, and the only way is through the crisis. So, and what it looks like for each of us is really unique and specific to ourselves. And again, I'm curious, have you thought, and I would just invite you to drop this in the chat, have you thought about what you need for yourself from your team, this group, your friends, your family? Because oftentimes we do need support going through these times. And so I would encourage you, if you feel comfortable, just put yes or no, if you know what you need to get through these times, to reopen your offices, to deal with the challenge of, PPE and, everything else that's happening. Do you feel like you have the support you need? So I would love for you guys just to put yes or no in the chat. And Alicia, I can see the chat now, so that's good.
Okay, great.
Great. I'm seeing some yeses. Awesome. I'm seeing a lot of yeses, which is fantastic. I love it. I love it. Okay, I don't see any no's, so that is really great. I love that you guys know what you need to get through this. And again, I think Dr. Yum has built a great support network for you guys to reach out to each other and to get the support you need to get through these tough times. So I'm going to get in your head a little bit because this is where resilience starts. You know, as you guys go to reopen, you might have the best plans, the best goals, the best actions and measurements and strategies for your team. However, that's really only about 10% of the picture. So if you ever have some of the best laid plans, but you wonder why they didn't work out, it's because about 90% of your actions come from your beliefs and your subconscious and your unconscious mind. So it's really important to understand this as you're going through crisis or as you're going through change, because this is what's going to help you build that resilience muscle. So, like I said, one of the examples I see a lot in my coaching with women, especially women, if you look way on the bottom, the sense of self-worth, it's very unconscious. It's a very unconscious belief and thought pattern that we have that we're not even aware of. And what I see in my practice is if a woman gets fired, if a woman gets laid off, if a project didn't come through, if she doesn't get the, the thing that she proposed at work, or if something just doesn't go her way, a lot of her, she will end up, depressed and sad and having a lot of emotions about that. And the reason why is because her self-worth is tied up in all of the items on the top. So if her plans don't go through, her self-worth is affected. If her goals aren't happening, her self-worth is affected. And it's really her self-worth that is affecting those things. So it's really important to understand that, because whatever you're going through as a woman or as a man, again, divorce and tough times and crises, what happens is she gets tied up in what she's doing, not who she is in that moment. So does that make sense to everyone? You just throw a yes in there or a no. If you have any questions along the way, please put them in the chat. I'm happy to answer. So I would like for you guys to do an exercise with me. So just play along. If you guys could close your eyes and imagine it's December at the end of 2020. You have some time away from work. Think about, where are you? Are you on a beach? Are you sitting around a Christmas tree? Are you skiing? And just sit with that image for a minute. Notice who's around you in your environment. What does it feel like? What does it smell like? And imagine in that environment, wherever you are, whether you're on a beach or in a log cabin next to the fire, imagine that you're sharing with the others you are with, or reflecting on your own, what it was like for you to go through this season of 2020. What is the story you want to be telling about who you were through these unprecedented times? Imagine you are still in December and you're sharing with the people close to you what you are proud of, what you've learned about yourself. And just feel that in your body as you imagine these conversations happening. What do you know is true? What does your December self want to tell your June self? What does your December self want you to know? So when you're ready, open your eyes. And how was that for you? If you guys feel comfortable, I would love to get some thoughts or notes in the chat. Anyone willing to share how that was? All right, looks like we have a shy group today. So some of you may have had feelings of comfort. Perhaps maybe for some of you, it didn't feel so good. Maybe you found yourself still struggling in December. And if that was the case, I want you to know that's okay too. You have the strength you need to get to December, and I have a feeling that you might actually surprise yourself with how well you'll come to the other side and get through all of this. And of course, for some of us, our December self might still be hurting. And this is not about denial. It's just about what may be real for each and every one of us. And yet, for so many, being able to visualize what's possible on the other side can be such a powerful step in order to rebound. So hopefully that exercise was useful for you. And we will move on. So there's a process called ORBED, and it's just an acronym for ownership, accountability, responsibility, blame, excuses, and denial. So what happens is if you go back to if you can imagine the iceberg, right? We see what's above the surface, and that's what others can see, that's what we can see. But then when you go below the line, below the waterline, those are where all of our emotions, our family upbringing, our belief patterns, our limiting beliefs, all of our emotions, that's where all of that is it's on the bottom of the line. It's beneath the line. And the reason why I bring that up is because when you're above the line, you are actually empowered, you're taking ownership, you're taking accountability, you're taking responsibility for your actions. It can feel very empowering, you feel like a victor, you're achieving results, and the language you typically hear is I choose, I prefer, I will do this, I can achieve this, right? It's very what we consider positive. And I don't like to say positive or negative just because that it infers judgment. What I like to say is, is it serving you or not serving you? Or is it serving others around you or not serving others around you? So I invite you to think about this from not only your own perspective, but maybe the team, maybe your dental team. So when you're in the office with them and maybe you see somebody struggling and maybe they're curt one day, you don't know what's going on beneath the line for them. The events of this last 7 days may have really triggered them, may have triggered you, and maybe you're just not quite yourself. And so it's really important to just understand that and give yourself some space and grace, but also give others the opportunity to understand that what you see on the surface may not always be what's underneath and what's happening. But the important thing is we think about, the only thing we can control is us individually. And so it's not about what you think, how you think below the line. It's about whether you act above the line. So I just bring that to your attention because I think it gives context to how we all react during a crisis moment, especially during crisis moments. What I call this with COVID and, the unrest that's happening in our country right now, I call it an amplifier. So just like the tide comes in from the ocean and it goes out and you hear it on the rocks and the rocks are exposed, this is an amplifier. It's really showing us the rocks underneath of maybe things that were there, but we really couldn't tap into. And this is an opportunity for us to really make a conscious choice to explore those things for ourselves. So how do you go about building resiliency? How you do it is 4 ways, and I'll talk about those 4 ways. First of all, you have to accept the events have occurred. And I know that sounds really simple, but it really is. There's just an acceptance. What it doesn't include is blaming the administration, our government, your friends, other people. It's just accepting the fact that things have occurred and this is where we are at right now. The second part of building resiliency is really identifying and labeling and expressing our emotions about it. It's really important to get in touch with that. I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling hurt, I'm feeling confused. And then the third piece of that is regaining a sense of mastery and control by focusing on your strengths. So many of us, and I see this with women all the time in my practice, so many of us, we really don't understand what our strengths are. I do a variety of different exercises with my clients, because oftentimes our strengths are things that we just take for granted, and we just think everyone else has the same strengths. So what I invite you to think about is really, what are your strengths? If you guys feel comfortable, I would love for you guys to put in the chat maybe one or two of your strengths. And if you don't know, think about what your friends are always telling you that you're really good at. I'm a good listener, or I'm a good communicator, or I'm really nurturing, I'm always there to help. You know, what are people sharing with you that you are really good at and you're kind of known for? Anyone want to share? Oh, I love resilient. Yes. Yes, Dr. Yum, you are a doer. You are getting things done. I agree. Dental team leadership and numbers. Yes. I love it. Thank you, ladies, for sharing. And if you haven't shared or just don't feel comfortable sharing, that's fine too. Yes, thank you for sharing. I'm resilient, but sometimes I doubt myself. I see that so often in women. And part of it is perfectionism. And underneath perfectionism, a lot of time, and I'm not saying, Phyllis, I'm not saying this is you. I'm just saying a lot of times we get paralyzed through perfectionism, and underneath perfectionism is fear of failure. So I always express to my clients, you know, I want you to fail, but fail forward and fast. So use those as learning examples and learning opportunities for yourself, and those really build your resilient muscle. I have a weird sense of humor. I'm able to laugh even in the most bleak times. Oh my gosh, it's so needed right now. What a great quality. I love it. Ah, Phyllis, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. So I love that you guys are clear on your strengths. And if you're not, just take an opportunity to really think about that, because your strengths are really leaning into your strengths are going to be what get you through these uncomfortable, unprecedented times. And then resuming your roles and activities. So, you know, I invite you guys to think about where we were 2.5, 3 months ago. I mean, I know for me, I'll share for myself. I mean, when everything first happened, everything got shut down. I have 2 daughters. One of them had to come home from college within 48 hours and move out of her apartment. And I was really sad, and I was really scared. My husband has, he's a very high risk person for COVID, and I was petrified. So for the first week, I think I binged a lot of Netflix and took a lot of naps and was really scared, and that's how I dealt with it. And I think I ate a lot of ice cream too. And then week 2, I found myself just kind of going through, I was in a fog. I was trying to get work done. I just would be tired really early in the day, which is not like me usually. And I think, you know, it took me several weeks of just feeling like I was still in a fog. And then all of a sudden, you know, here we are, we're still in the middle of a pandemic. I'm in Los Angeles, and, you know, we're still on lockdown. Now we're on curfew. And the reality is I'm going about my day very normally. And I would imagine you are all in a very similar boat. That if you think about how you started COVID and how you're coming at the end of COVID, not that we're out of it, but we're starting to reopen, I would imagine that you kind of see a progress for yourself as well. And that is you building your resilience. So that's you resuming your roles and activities. The one thing I want to add here, which is really interesting, if you think about above the line, really those very tactical, like plans, goals, achievements, and you think about everything below the line, you know, accepting the events that have occurred, that's acceptance. That's really tapping into maybe old beliefs about how you were raised, thought patterns that you have that were given to you by your family, identifying, labeling, expressing our emotions, our intuition, all of that's below the line. Regaining a sense of mastery and control by focusing on your strengths, that's also below the line. And then really, you know, kind of doing the tactical day-to-day is really above the line. So it kind of falls in line with the same percentages as you see we go about life. Only 10% is above the line. I mean, we have 75% of the things that we're struggling with or we're trying to do that are below the line. So it's really important that we understand that, and we just take a moment and a pause as we're going through these events to understand how we are reacting to them and what is driving our reactions. So now what I'm going to do, and this is why I invite you guys to be on video, we are going to do something new. We are going to head into breakout rooms. And here's what I would love for you guys to do. I would love for you to introduce yourself. And as you're preparing for your office reopenings, I know some of you may have already reopened. Some of you are maybe starting to reopen or haven't quite gotten there yet. Maybe share what have been some of your below the line behaviors, even during COVID, and what are some of your above the line behaviors? And then how are you going to act above the line moving forward? So I'm going to, I need to actually stop my screen share to get you guys into breakout rooms. So give me 1 second. So there's going to be about 4 to 5 participants in each room, and you're going to be broken up in 4 to 5 rooms. Let's see. And you will be in there for 12 minutes. And this is really an opportunity for you to connect with your other cohorts. And you'll see a timer, and then you'll see a timer to get you back into this main room. If you have any questions, there is a ask for help button. You can always ask for help. So I'm gonna send you off into your rooms, and I will see you in 12 minutes. All right. Is everyone back? Sometimes it takes a few minutes for everyone to come back. Hopefully we didn't lose anybody along the way. Great. All right, so I'm getting some comments in the chat that was really a great experience. And there was someone that had an issue in my room, so I actually went into one of the breakout rooms and ended up participating in the conversation. So I would love to hear maybe 1 or 2 people just share what that experience was like and what you learned. And by the way, you're all on mute, so if you guys could come off mute to speak, that would be great. Anyone want to share?
I'll share.
Okay, thanks, Michelle.
Sure. I think that it was really nice because we had a chance to really talk about what all of us are doing in our work environments right now. And I think it gave us a little bit of confidence about, we're making good decisions, we're getting through this, and we agreed that we're a lot stronger than we were when this started.
Great.
So no matter what comes up in life, we feel like this is exercise those resiliency muscles, and we're getting stronger.
I love that. Thank you so much. And it's so true, right? And the purpose of that exercise, quite frankly, is just to let everyone know that they're not alone and that we're all experiencing the same thing. So I am going to, because we're running a little short on time, we're going to talk about the rebound. So how do you build a radical rebound? It's really visualizing what you want to be able to say, or what you did, or even better yet, who you were during this crisis. So when you think back to the visualization exercise that I had you guys do in December, you're looking back through this time. Who do you want to, when you look back at this time, because these are absolutely unprecedented times, they will go down in the history books. When you think about the legacy that you want to leave, and you want to think about yourself, who were you during this crisis? Identify what's at stake and what's it going to take to move forward. Share your story. That's what we just did. We had an opportunity to kind of share with each other and talk about the behaviors that we're either struggling with, or the crisis that we're struggling with, and also how to move forward and how to support each other. I really invite you as a community to use what Dr. Yum has provided for you to reach out to each other and to support each other through this process. And then most importantly, especially for women, we tend to be really hard on ourselves. Please exercise compassion with yourself. know that none of us have been through anything like this ever in our entire lives. So, you know what? We may do things wrong. We may not do exactly the right thing. There's no playbook for this. So please give yourself some grace and some compassion as you move forward. We were going to do another breakout room, but because of timing, I'm actually going to pass on that. Here's one thing I really want to say from the breakout rooms. I love this quote, and it's so true. And the essence of it is that we all need each other to get through this, and that going through these difficult times really does build our resilience, and growing our resilience in turn grows our self-esteem, not only for ourselves. If we think about this with our children, this is what helps them build their self-esteem for their future. And so, you know, it's what allows someone to fall down and stand back up. So I really invite you guys to support each other, support yourselves through this time. Again, I would just invite you to think about what's one takeaway. You don't have to share it, but what's one takeaway that you learned about yourself today? And what is one thing, as a coach, one of my tenets is I help people be held accountable to achieve their dreams. And that's how coaching is different than therapy or mentorship or any other modality, is I really become an accountability partner. So I challenge each of you is, what is one thing that you commit to trying or doing differently moving forward because of what you learned today? I have some resources for you. If you guys want to take a picture of this screen, that's great. I can also send it to Alicia. She can send it out to you guys through email. But these are some great resources. Mindset by Carol Dweck. It's all about having either a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. I know we've all met people who are like, I can't do that. That's impossible. Oh, woe is me. That's definitely having a fixed mindset. Having a growth mindset is really about building resilience and knowing that you can move forward. So I highly suggest that book. It's phenomenal. Dare to Lead by Brene Brown, phenomenal book. Grit, again, going through tough times, having the grit to get through it. And also Atomic Habits by James Clear is something I really highly recommend as well. Podcasts, obviously, you should all be listening to Dr. Yum's podcast for great information. I've listened to several episodes and they're wonderful. They really provide great support for you and your community. I also have my own podcast, which is called Lead Your Life. And not that this is any self-promotion, but what I will say is, if you are having, I know many of us are feeling helpless and powerless about what to say during these times, whether it's to our children, whether it's to our teammates at work, whether it's to friends, whether it's to the racist uncle that we have that comes to Christmas dinner. I just recorded my last episode on the cure for racism. And it's a very raw, honest, real conversation. It's the last episode. I think it's episode 17. So if you're looking for a way to just step forward and just know how to start having conversations that are maybe uncomfortable, I highly suggest that episode. And Gretchen Rubin is great. Unlocking Us with Brene Brown. I'm a huge Brene Brown fan. There was actually lessons from the Carol Dweck book that Brooke Castillo talks about in her Life Coach School podcast. And then I love Eleanor Beaton. She talks about how to be a fierce feminine leader, and I really highly recommend her podcast as well. So my gift to this group is, I know these are unprecedented times. There is no sales call here. I am not selling anything. I am here to serve this community. I believe in what Dr. Yum has created for women, because I have the same values for myself and my business. So if you guys want to hold your camera up and scan the QR code there, you just open up your camera on your phone. You can go, or you can type in the URL, which is corecreationcoaching.com breakthrough. I'm actually gifting 20, I think it's 20 or 25, I can't remember. I'm gifting 20 coaching sessions. So if you are having trouble kind of getting through this, you're stuck, you just don't know how to proceed forward, you don't know how to get through this with your kids, or whatever you want to talk about, I'm here for you. So I will gladly give you guys 30-minute sessions. And I'm happy to contribute that to your community, because I really believe in serving this community and serving women in general. I also we are launching a women's leadership lab, which is all about how to build your leadership skills, what gets in your way, how to build your own personal leadership, not only at work, but also in your community and your life. We just launched the inaugural group of that. It launched this last week, and we already have people on the wait list. When we open, we will be launching another group July 6th. So please call me, email me, text me if you're interested in that. Again, no hard sales. It's for women who want to be in a group, learning, growing, and experiencing from each other what it's like to be with other like-minded women that are highly driven and motivated to make change in their life. And that's all I have for you guys. So I would like to open it up for questions at this point. Questions, comments, feedback? Oh, I love that. Looks like you guys have already read a lot of the book. So it looks like Grace talked about grit, Maggie talked about dare to lead. Oh, Heather, I like that you said you're actually sitting in your office with your team. I love that you're creating that openness with your team to talk about everything that's going on. And I will tell you, that's, whether you listen to the podcast or not, that's really just opening up the conversation and just hearing people and letting people express themselves is a really powerful thing that you're doing. Perfect. You guys are so welcome. I'm so glad I was able to be here today to support you and your team. I hope you guys learned some great information and hopefully something helpful to take back to your lives and to your teams. Thank you, Heather, for sharing that. Oh, I like moving strongly forward. Thanks, Michelle, for sharing that too. That's great. Does anyone have any questions? I'll stay on for a bit if anyone wants to chat. You guys are sisters in this together, right? Helping each other through. Thank you, Dr. Young, for giving me the opportunity to speak to your community. Thank you so much. All right, well, we have a couple of minutes. If anyone, I will stay on until 12 my time. I'll stay on for the next 4 minutes if anyone has anything. Otherwise, I wish you ladies a wonderful day. Thank you for joining. Thank you for spending this time with me. And we will go from there. Need more examples of above the line behaviors. Dr. Lee, can you expand a little bit more on that?
Hello?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay. No, it's just because every time I'm hit with a trigger, I automatically respond with a negative. So I need like more of an example of how we can actually do better. Like, like instead of like, cause I go through a lot of therapy myself, and they just tell you, oh, well, when you recognize the trigger, then, take a step back, look at it intellectually, and then think, and then do something else. But like, it's just hard for me because like, my automatic trigger is like, ugh, So like if you were hit with a trigger, what positive things can you do above the line instead of below the line behaviors?
Yeah, so that's the emotion that you're feeling, like usually like the right? What usually follows that in terms of action? Where do you usually go? Do you kind of isolate, or do you so I hear that that's the initial emotion, but then what do you do in terms of action? Like, do you end up getting paralyzed, or do you?
It ranges. Like, you can go from panic to just like, so I usually just get frozen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to know how to unfreeze myself.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
if
it's,
I had an example of like something that I can do more positively, I would try to like, because I think your mind just gets empty after getting hit with a trigger. And so like if I know, okay, stop, breathe. Okay, why don't you look back on your list or something like that? Or should I create a list of things to do? Or should I even do things or reflect? You
yeah.
know, there's so many things you can do.
Yeah, so first of all, I just want to really acknowledge and appreciate that you shared that with the group, because other people are chiming in saying, I feel that way too. So I appreciate your courageousness for being open and sharing that, because obviously it's resonating with other people. Honestly, the best first step, I mean, in a coaching session, I would ask you more questions and kind of pull it out of you. But I'll give you more consulting at this point just because of time. Honestly, just, and I know it sounds very simplistic or simple, I should say, but honestly, just being aware in that moment of, oh my gosh, you know what, I'm being triggered. This is what's happening, is literally 90% of the battle. And then people have all different types of things that they do. So it could mean that you use that time when you get triggered to go journal and to maybe write down your feelings and what's coming up. Because sometimes when we get paralyzed, it's because we don't really know what we're feeling. We don't know what's going on inside of us. And it's like we get so overwhelmed that we just shut down. So maybe it's an opportunity, you know what, hey, when I have that feeling, I'm just going to pause and I'm going to journal. I'm just going to write. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be just, maybe you're scribbling all over paper. I'm just saying, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm hurt, I'm pissed, you know, and just to get those feelings out and acknowledge them. And then some other people have like a bracelet. Like I wear a bracelet with a bee. It has like a bumblebee on it.
Is it what you do to snap it just to get you out of it?
I don't snap it, but I touch it. And it just reminds me to like sink back into being, instead of being at the victim or you know, being at the effect of everything. It just reminds me to like to just be, like, just be okay with what's going on and just center myself and just take a few minutes before I respond, right? Because what happens is like I do a whole other presentation where I talk about the brain, and what happens is like we have our brain, and when we literally like flip, when there's a part of our brain when we flip our lid, it's like literally we're not thinking, and it's just we're reacting. And you know, as women, a lot of us will say, oh my God, I don't know what I was thinking, I don't know why I said that. It's because you weren't thinking. You were coming from a very very reptilian part of your brain where you literally were not thinking. And so it's just giving yourself time to sit in that space and to just be okay with it, and give yourself the opportunity to like get back to logical thinking instead of emotional reaction, is oftentimes what it takes to get through that process. Some people go exercise, some people to kind of clear their heads and clear their emotions. You know, people have all kinds of different responses that they can do, and you just have to find what works for you to kind of help you get through that. Does any of that resonate with you?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's just sometimes you just forget what you are supposed to do when you're hit with the trigger, and I think that's it's a good reminder. What you said is just all those things. I mean, like I think throughout the years, everybody has already told us some sort of form or another, like, okay, do this, do that. But sometimes, yeah, it's just like, yeah, you just forget. You totally forget when when you're just trying to fight back tears, or you're just trying to do something else, So it's a good reminder of what you said. I liked it.
Yeah, good. And yeah, and I mean, I don't think anything I presented today was rocket science. You know, it's probably all things that we've heard before, or that even when you heard, you were like, oh yeah, I know that. But you know what? We are so busy, and we put so much pressure on ourselves as women to just know everything and do everything and be everything to everyone. And oftentimes we just need to take, like, I'm so impressed that everyone took an hour for themselves in the midst of everything that's going on, to just focus on themselves, and just giving them this time to just remind themselves that, you know what, I really do need to take care of myself. Maybe I just do need to go for a run, or take some time to meditate, right? And maybe I just need to take a moment to myself sometimes instead of just really, I always call it putting on the oxygen mask first, right? We need to put on our own oxygen mask and take care of ourselves before we can take care of our teams and our kids, and because then we show up as our better selves. So
Thank you, Natalie.
absolutely.
Now I'm basically gonna go and wrap myself in PPE and go back to work now. I'm gonna take a break. I was like, my head hurts all the time, my ears hurt all the time, and my hair's tied back so damn tight that I'm like going.
Well,
So I took everything down. I'm gonna get redressed because I know I'm gonna have to relayer my clothes right now. So, but thank you.
It was nice chatting with you. Thank you, everyone, for showing up today. Bye.